Hello, I am Radagast, at your service. So tonight's title is Jubilee Consciousness, a New Beginning. But before I begin, I have to talk about a very momentous day for ModWiz, myself, and that began when I awoke from my mid-afternoon nap around 4 o'clock, and I went, checked to see how my latest video was doing, and there's a message in my comment section from Ron Van Dyke, and he puts, just posted this on Facebook. I just hung up with the ambassador. He wanted me to share this video to show that some people really are awakening. Several people in the family expressed to him that they were excited to hear this spot-on synopsis. I have said that much of what the ambassador shares is directed to people in the know, not always to regular folk or wannabe Pied Pipers searching for gold in boxes. Those who have the knowledge will also have the keys to understand, as ModWiz does. So that he left that, and that was in regard to my the Ambassador and Red Dragon family, a synopsis with commentary that I did on January 23rd. And so he posted on Facebook, and now I guess just to say something, I'm not on Facebook. I really don't like the way it works. I had opened up a very partial account when I released a music video of mine, and during a conversation, because being unaware how this goes out to multiple parties of friends who are and everybody gets to see a conversation that you think might be between two people, and then suddenly you have somebody coming in with comments that are not about the subject and derogatory to the other party, and I just realized that my personal experience as a somewhat private person, Facebook was way beyond anything I could deal with and be comfortable with. And I mention this also because actually I think I'm glad, because based on a comment that somebody sent in and placed in my comment section so that I could see it, and I will share some of that with you. If that's just one sampling of the, I guess, 500 new views since the video went out, I could do without it. So let me get to that. So that's the kind, I had this day that went out, and it's very nice. Of course, I'm speaking to people, and anybody who's appreciating the message is something that I appreciate. And if the Red Dragon kind of sends in a message through the ambassador that they like it, well, how do I see that? Well, of course I see it as a thumbs up. Like if somebody comes to my video and they hit the thumbs up, it means they like it. So for me, that's a Red Dragon thumbs up. A lot of people are reading a lot more into it, and of course, personally it might mean a bit more to me, but I'm entitled to have feelings about certain people liking what I do. So anyway, so this person, I'm not going to know names, of course, and said, I just watched the video and I'm literally sick to my stomach. To watch this pathetic little man grovel and jockey for position. By the way, I'm the pathetic little man groveling. Even going so far as to make a direct statement to the dragons that he'd do anything for them, that's a misconstruing and I'll address, was sad enough, but ultimately harmless. But then to see the last 20 minutes or so, he goes on unending degradation of humanity and so on. Okay. And to see this guy, he's only been posting videos for a week, and now they are going to try to direct more people to him to be another RVD, or Ron Van Dyke, right? Or maybe it's his clone, or they're kids of the end. Again, it's a bunch of ad hominem stuff. I'll spare you. And then, so this, okay, let me address this one piece that he says here. First of all, about making a direct statement to the dragons he'd do anything for them. Now, of course, when I greeted the dragons, I greeted them as I just did you at the beginning of this video. I say, my name is Radagast, at your service. It's the exact same greeting I use on all of my videos, and even in that video I use it twice. Once, as I normally do to greet my people, and then when I look directly into the camera to speak to the Red Dragons, I said the same thing. didn't sink any longer in deflection. It was the same greeting. So anybody who's reading into that, this is groveling, or I do anything for them, whatever you're reading into what I said to the Red Dragon, please know I say it to you every day as I start my videos. It's the same thing. So that clarification. But this is what people do. You know, I mean, like if he watched the video, he would have seen me greet him exactly the same. But that gets lost because people get off into tizzies. Okay, but here's the real kicker, he says. If those pieces of paper that show inconceivable numbers of currency on them are actually real, then they are and can only be the exact indicting, in capital letters, indicting evidence of the consequent of usury. Okay, and it goes on, the only way they can get these kind of sums. Yeah, I'm quite sure that the way they got those sums were usury, because the people that they were dealing with invented usury. Not the Chinese, we're talking about the European banking families, and that's who they were basically backing. And so with, you know, backing with gold. So whatever they deposited would be accruing interest, not because of the evil Red Dragons, because that was the system that they were working with. The system wanted them to borrow and said, if you lend us this, this is your interest. Now, please remember, the Chinese are a very mercantile group for thousands of years. I mean, mercantilism is really what the Chinese are. You may look at their army, but if you historically look at their army, and even now, it's an immune system. It's for within the contained organism of China. So okay, so that's, I mean, so the whole thing is, so as good businessmen, you know, there's, you know, with who we're not going to hurt from loaning this in and also getting interest, it's just a good business deal. One that worked very well for them. And I think it's interesting because they're mentioning about all these papers, and at every level he's questioning them, and they're just pieces of paper and so on and so forth. But you know, when they're talking about these massive sums all come from usury, and I think it's really kind of interesting that, as we saw from that this massive interest is given out. And you can almost see like a very clever and wise strategy of, okay, I lent this out, and which I don't lose because it's lent. And of course, you don't ever lend out what you can't afford to lose. And so it's there, and then as they're gaining interest, they're handing it. You saw who's getting it. Now, of course, we might go them. Well, that's kind of how, that's the system currently in effect, and it's that system that is currently a problem, and it is that system that will be modified. So I get this email, and so after this, so we start out, the very first things is, I'm a pathetic little man groveling and jockey for position. Another thing I'd like to say is, I'm unaware of any positions that are opening to jockey for. Okay, just let that be said also. Okay, so after this, and this is like a 50+ line message. He says, I actually posted this on a forum in discussion of this video and want to share it here as well. Sorry if it comes across harsh to the maker of the video. That would be me, the groveling man. Little man, even though I stand almost 6'3". It was not intended for him originally. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time, whatever. So now, again, I'm a compassionate person. He got plugged in, especially got plugged in because he thought that I was doing something to them that I wasn't doing to the rest of the people, and I was doing exactly the same thing. So he got off right away. That really made him, that kicked him off. He made him a little crazy. He obviously doesn't have a particularly good opinion of Ron Van Dyke, because maybe I'm his clone, but for some reason he found Van Dyke posted this on his Facebook page, and this man found it. I find that curious too. But as we all know, if we have like a sore in our mouth, somebody's like to stick your tongue to it. You know, we do interesting things. So anyway, so after he writes all this, he feels better. He's got it off his chest. So at the end, from this pathetic, groveling little man, it's However, he tells me, if you wish to dialogue with me, you will see I'm not really abrasive at all. Just another one seeking the truth as it actually is and not as I want it to be. Huh? So this is a case of also where, okay, taking somebody at their word. Now he said two things. He called me what he called me. And now he's saying that if I want to dialogue with him, he's really not abrasive. And I didn't really find him abrasive. I found him plugged in. And the moment you plug in, you lose it. You do. I mean, that's the whole reason of not being emotional, why you want to be in touch with your feelings. You want to know what you feel. But once you know what you feel, you don't want to ride that tornado of emotion, and because then you write from your emotions. You're not writing from your heart, or just your higher, nice, dry mind, where you have some pretty clean, coherent thoughts that you need to get out. So you put them out in nice, clean language without a lot of invective and ad hominem and capital letters. So I addressed that. And then also another thing about Facebook, I received 3 messages from somebody via a Facebook thing, so I can view it, but I can't interact with it, saying they had a message from me from the Shanglong. Now that's interesting. And so anyway, if that person is watching this, I don't do Facebook. I cannot, and the emails that I got letting me know that you had a message you wanted to give me, I couldn't even reply to, because if I used the email, it was to a no reply address. So anyway, I would like that to be out there. Facebook does not work for me, so some other way, like come to my site and leave a comment there, and I have no problem putting out my email address on my own site. So no Facebook. And so I might be able to get on to the subject now. That's good. I like that subject. All right. Jubilee Consciousness, a new beginning. So I hope everybody knows what a Jubilee is. It was written about in the Old Testament. There's a certain amount of years where if debts weren't paid, everything was flattened out, a new slate. And it was I think it was like Jubilees were every 50 years, if I recall. And so, of course, 50 years is pretty good. In those days, a lot of people didn't live past 50, and you might not have lived to get out of debt. But that's besides the point. So, part of what is being discussed here, with the new beginning, that is being guided by the Red Dragon family. The whole, right now, the financial system is a mess by the people who bring us interest. And so, okay, so there has to be a new beginning. So the way to reset everything, and really to have a new beginning is flatten everything out. All right, this way here. I mean, the Chinese, the family, hold enormous Western debt. And so it tangles everything up. It's like it's a form of forgiveness, and that's also tied into Jubilee Consciousness, is forgiveness, which is, to me, one of the primary messages of Jesus, and a very powerful message, and not what it appears. And maybe I can explain that in a minute once I finish this Jubilee Consciousness. So, but right now, Jubilee is always kind of attached to debt. And maybe if you were a slave, you could not be a slave. But Jubilee, that's Jubilee. Jubilee Consciousness, and by the way, this is a term, if you've heard it before, then I didn't coin it, but it came to me yesterday for the first time as I was explaining something that was on my mind. I used the term Jubilee Consciousness. And Jubilee Consciousness, I don't have to have that page anymore. Good. Okay. Jubilee Consciousness is the squishing of debt on all levels. And I guess I'll use that little line from the Lord's Prayer. The 2 ways of saying it is, forgive us our trespasses as we have forgiven those who have trespassed against us, or forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And that's actually one of the most, I feel is the most powerful part of the Lord's Prayer, because it actually stopped me a few times. Back when I was still working with sky gods in the Pleroma, and saying fairly formal prayers. I would often use the Lord's Prayer as kind of like an entry ritual to get the right consciousness. And what was interesting was when I got to that line, there had been a few people who I had long-term grudges with. And so forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And I had to stop, and I realized I couldn't finish the prayer, because unless I could do that, the rest of the prayer was bullshit. Like, this was like, to me, it's kind of nice where it is. It's like, let's get real now. And if you get to this point, and when you get to that, you have these people that you're angry at, well, we have an issue. And then that's also a formula. And I remember one time having this conversation with a Catholic friend of mine. He didn't get into it, but of course he has all kinds of dogma that doesn't allow him to think for himself. And so the formula, to me, is the formula for mercy or forgiveness. Get this out of the way. The formula for forgiveness or mercy, and how it is it's almost like, oh gee, I really don't know what like, how would I know what's right or wrong? I have all these books. How would this is if you feel that there's this forgiveness relationship you have to have anyway. But based on this formula, basically what this is telling you is the quality of the mercy you receive, at least the minimum of mercy you will receive, will be the mercy that you give. And basically what this is telling us is that we set our own bar. Like, how would you like to be judged? The same way you judge other people, because nothing else could be fair. To use what you think is proper, like what somebody's wrong and what can be forgiven. So what you think can be forgiven and cannot be forgiven is your own personal bar that you set to be judged by. How cool and cosmically just is that? But a lot of people don't get that. But that is the formula. But again, that's if you're still tied up with some of this like cosmic sin stuff, and which I find rather burdensome. So Jubilee Consciousness is kind of working with that, the quality of that. The whole relationship here is based on being flat, and so part of Jubilee Consciousness, as the world starts to improve. How about all the family members that you have grudges with over this, that? I can think of a good grudge that when somebody died and who fought the most and got more than you did. That's one instance. But anyway, there's all these grudges, and to have a real clean world is to have Jubilee Consciousness, where the moment we declare it is when that's a marking line of everything that gets forgiven. It doesn't have to mean forgotten, but how you remember is very crucial to not plugging into emotional stuff that sucks you back into that kind of feeling. So again, Jubilee Consciousness, where we get flat everywhere, and then from that line, progressing forward, we all begin to write our new history. And this is the history that we can, quote unquote, judge each other by. In other words, if you want to have an opinion of somebody, like what you think, what their progress is, well, since we all start at the same starting line, no handicapping, like you do with horses. Stronger horse gets more weights depending on the jockey. No, everybody, here you are, let's go. And what you do is who you are. Jubilee Consciousness. Okay, I don't do Facebook. So, a place in the cosmic order, because what is happening here is truly cosmic in scale. And I think this really, there's a lot of people who don't work with cosmic perspectives. There are a lot of people who come in through the fold, again, through conspiracy theory, Nessera, the collateral accounts, Karen Hudes, Neil Keenan, a lot of, again, there's a lot of people who, because of the conversation, that even if people could be very much on the periphery, even opposites of the periphery, there's still a common conversation being had with not necessarily a common jargon or language. And so things like cosmic order are out of the language of a lot of people. So this, and so also with the part of what is interesting about America is we're proud, which is a tricky word in itself, because pride is a deadly sin. And not so much from the sin, but pride is a puffed up, fake perception. Delight at one's accomplishment, joy, pleasure, very different in pride. Pride has a puffiness to it, and is a place that things can get tricky. But anyway, Americans are very proud that they don't recognize class in their society. And as I was pondering it, as I play with words, we're proud to be a classless society. We have no class in our society. I hope people are starting to hear the other meaning of class, as in being classy. And so anyway, America is a classless society, proud that we have no class in our society, and it shows. Again, Americans have great heart. They really do. Americans are known. I mean, even though they can be really, really self-involved, if you get a little tingle, if you can pull them out of it for a second and something, Americans are amazing. They really are. But they are a classless society, and that has perception problems in a lot of ways, and it also has decorum issues associated with it, in my opinion. And I drew up a little chart, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, this whole, people taking over or whatever. And of course, they always come up with the pyramid. I have a couple of diagrams here. There's a pyramid. Actually, my personal monogram is what looks like a pyramid with an R in it. I happen to write the rad or rado rune in there. When I use it as a monogram, I put a regular English kind of R in it, but sometimes I shorten that leg to give it more of the rune feeling. It's a rune of Mercury, so it's associated with Trickster and Odin, communication, messages, things like that. Traveling. It's specifically a travel. Rad also means wheel. So it's I used to have a rad rune in my car when I had a car. So like I said, this is, and the reason why this is part of my the awakening or joining I had in 1988 was where I was like a typical truncated pyramid, and then after the rest of me joined me, and it joined me in the form of a capstone coming on to a truncated pyramid, bringing the rest of me onto the planet, and so we could really get to work. But anyway, but most people see the pyramid as the power scheme. Now, this is based on archontic linear thinking, because linear is also also vertical in its nature, or horizontal if you're doing a straight line. But the whole thing is it's always linear. That's how the left brain in the archontic is. Now, I have another diagram I'm going to show you about what I consider to be true influence, which is the circle. And I would have made more, but I didn't want to really ruin too many circles. Freehand, of course. And so what we're seeing here is a little dot in the middle with either an infinity or an 8 if you want. And then what these are concentric circles. But what they really are, what the diagram really is ripples in water. Okay, so the whole idea is, so the central spot is the influence, because remember, we're redefining words like ruler and we're bringing them into influence, guidance, because that is, if things are done right, their ruler is, nobody wants that word, including rulers. If people, true sovereigns, do not rule in any way that we conceive of that word, because of the poor rulership we've had. We're programmed. So anyway, but what this is, are the various kind. So you have basically this kind of, when this pulses, its influence goes out. it spreads out from here towards the periphery. But it's not always admitting, because, you know, on, off, on, you know, it's dynamic, it's alive. And also it has to stop transmitting, because what we see here, but I didn't finish it, is that what looked like would be, because in this thing, if you take this up, what happens is the power comes down, as opposed to radiating. The influence radiates. And what these other R's, I said I didn't complete them, is that when this has to be quiet, because these other areas of influence have to be able to send out their own pings that then spread both out and towards the center, and that's the communication. And that's how the body works. The body, even though you might have a central coordination point, the body is all about communication. If you step on something hot, your lowly foot will tell your high mind, let's get it off. And if the high mind goes, I don't know if I feel like listening to you, foot, it will suffer with a burned foot. So again, the obstinacy, the idiocy, the cluelessness of the way the cabal, and just cabal, just the way the poor rulers, I'll say rulership because it hasn't been administration. Administration is coordination. And the other thing is the whole, why do we need this? It's called organization. Any one thing is in its autonomy is an organism. But what makes an organism, like when you look at a cell, let's take a single cell. If you look, its boundaries are its membrane. And so you have, I saw what time it was and I lost my train of thought. Because I was meaning to make this short. So the membrane, so what it is, rather than just being a bunch of like parts floating in jelly, what makes it an organism is because these parts get organized. And it's in the organization that you end up with an organism instead of parts. An organism is always more than the sum of its parts, because the parts of a simple, simple one-celled organism would be a cell wall, a membrane, protoplasm for everything to kind of float in, and a nucleus and ribosomes and mitochondria, very important to mitochondria. It's like you would have these parts, but it's only put together within this membrane and in coordination through organization that you have an organism and not just parts. And that's kind of key to what allows an organism to thrive, is organization. And that's what any kind of administration really is just to organize so that what could be just disparate autonomous parts are pulled into a functioning whole. And again, everybody's thinking, well, who's going to decide for? How about you decide for yourself, and then you just say, somebody maybe know a little bit here. I mean, there's people are so hung up about who's telling them what to do as they go to the jobs that many of them don't like every day. And so this is cosmic. What is now happening? There is no precedent for it. Okay, there's no precedent in history for what is about to happen to us, because it's not just about the Red Dragon family and a Jubilee, and suddenly economics becomes more equitable, easy, whatever it's going to be. Let's not put so many words on it. There is absolutely no precedent, and that's I mean, for me, from my Gaian perspective, and what Gaia has, how Gaia's awakening, and of course our awakening with her, and then realizing through the Sophionic narrative that once again we have millions of inhabited planets in this galaxy, or maybe thousands, I don't know the number, a lot, and they all planets, any living planet has its, it's an organism, but only Earth that we know of, at least in this galaxy, has one of the aeons from the pleroma in it. And I don't want to harp on it because we're running into 30 minutes, but that is so significant and so monumental on a galactic, if not universal scale, that we kind of fail to realize what is converging here. This is something that I'm quite sure that the Red Dragon family is aware of. Probably involved, could possibly. I won't say probably. Possibly, but the history of our planet is something that we don't know. It's far-reaching. It is galactic, and it's all tied in with our history. And much of what is happening here is what's going down now. The Earth is a cosmic event, and it has everything to do with the fact that we are the planet that has a God in it. Everybody knows who the Aeons are. They created everything. They know where they are in the center of the galaxy. I'm just not sure if everybody knows that one of them left and became one with the Earth and is here with us and is still an Aeon. So she's popping. She's popping. And those of us who we're all rising together, but those of us who tap into her, get a lot more juice. And you can feel it. You feel the specialness of it. You feel the specialness of all those other races' genes within us, entangled with us as we get ready for this very cosmic event, as our consciousness rises in to divine consciousness, as we achieve a stage of godhood, and we take those races that are intermingled with us, we take them with us. So, okay, that's 31 minutes. I think I said everything I need to do. But Jubilee Consciousness. This is an attitude. It's a clean slate for everybody. What's the sense of suddenly we have no economic problems, but we're still arguing over somebody left the toilet seat up or something? All right, so that'll be my conclusion. Actually, let me part and really piss a bunch of people off. Okay, I'm gonna say hello to the Red Dragon. Yin Hao. And then if he has any friends with him, Yin Min Hao. And to the rest of you, Ni Hao. That means hello. Alright? That piss off enough people? Before all else, I see the God within you.